Hello, good morning, students. Let us start lesson number 9 of class 8th history, the making of the national movement, 1870s to 1947. To make our chapter more interesting and easier, I had divided this chapter into two parts. In first part, we will talk about the timeline from 1857 to 1915. In the previous chapters, we have looked at that, or we had studied about the British conquest of territories over India. How Britishers took over the Indian kingdoms and make their own territories. We had seen the introduction of new laws and the imposition of heavy taxes on Indians. We already see the changes in the lives of the peasants and tribal. Because of British policies, many of the tribals and the peasants faced hardship. Then we see the decline in Indian industries. We had seen the time period of the declination of craft and the growth of Indian industries, because the main intention of the Britishers was to earn more and more profit from the trade. They wanted to sell the goods which are made in England or in Britain. Those goods are to be sold here in India at a higher price. All these factors or consequences led to the emergence of a question. What is that question? India is for whom? Our country, India, is for whom? And to whom do its resources and wealth belong? This India is for whom, and resources which are bestowed to India by nature and wealth belongs to whom? The simple answer is that India is for Indians and its resources are only meant for the Indians, not for any others. The consciousness that India is for Indians began after the formation of various political associations. Or you can say the emergence of the nationalism started with this question when Indians come to know that India is for Indians. During this time period of 1870 to 1880s, many political associations were formed by English educated people. Some important associations which were formed in India by these people were, first of all, Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, the Indian Association, the Madras Mahajan Sabha, the Bombay Presidency Association, and at last, not the least, the Indian National Congress. Reason behind this dissatisfaction with the British rule were not only one or two, there were so many reasons. Or in other words, you can say that what are the causes behind this discontentment with the British rule? First one is Arms Act of 1878. This Arms Act, which is introduced in India by 1878, did not allow Indians to possess arms. And in the same year, they introduced one more act, that is Vernacular Press Act. This also enacted in an effort to silence, means आवाज दबाने की कोशिश की गई, those who were critical of the government. Many of the Indians sometimes criticize the working of the British government and they publish these things or expressions and views in newspapers and magazines time to time. But this act allowed the government to confiscate the assets of newspapers, including their printing press. Means if any of the Indian writer write against the British policies and method of working, sometimes they seize the whole entire printing press and they destroy the printing machine also. And third one, that one is the major cause of dissatisfaction with the British rule was Ilbert Bill. Earlier, the white Britishers, the white skin colored people, those who think that they are superior than the Indians, their cases were only heard by the British or English judges. But with the introduction of Ilbert Bill, British official cases or Britishers' cases could be now heard by Indian judges. This actually enraged the Britishers. They were not in favor of this bill. So this Ilbert Bill was taken back by the British government. When they withdraw this bill, it enraged the Indians. And the event was highlighted that the racial attitude of the British in India. See, there was nothing wrong कि something is introduced and after that it was withdrawal. But the main thing was that कि white skinned people were not happy with this कि one black judge or Indian judge heard their case. So indirectly they were following the racial discrimination, the policy of the racial discrimination. That was highlighted. Then what happened? This controversy of Ilbert Bill had led to the formation of Indian National Congress. 72 Indian delegates met in Bombay in 1885 and formed Indian National Congress. Most of the early leaders of the Indian National Congress were from Bombay and Calcutta. Some of the prominent early leaders of the Congress were Dadabhai Nauroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tayyab ji, Ramesh Chandra Dutt, Surendranath Banerjee. Apart from Dadabhai Nauroji, who was a businessman settled in London, A.O. Hume played a crucial role in bringing Indians together. He was a retired British official who guided and united the younger nationalists of India. Congress was moderate and initially it demanded. When the Congress was formed, it was in its early years, it was moderate in its objective and methods. They were following the method of requesting and pleasing, which was not liked by the other leaders of India. But anyhow, in its early period, Congress demanded certain things. The demands of the Congress in the early periods were: first, Congress demanded the participation of Indians in government as well as in the administration. Second, It wanted the Legislative Council to be made more representative and powerful. It demanded not only these two, it demanded that high position should be also given to the Indian in the government. For this, it called, or you can say it demanded, that the civil service examination to be held in India as well. Earlier, what happened? To choose the civil servants, one exam was conducted in London. So, if you want to work in administration, you have to pass the exam. And this examination was conducted only in London. So, only the Britishers were able to give examination, and then they pass the examination and come to India to administer it. This demand the Congress raised, instead of conducting the exam in London, it should be in India. So more and more Indian can able to give the exam for civil servant, so that indirectly more and more IAS officers could be there in administration from India. Other demands by the Congress were repeal of Arm Act. See on page number 144. Congress hoped that Britishers have to repeal the Arm Act, because if this undue law officially ended, then it could be more and more benefited to the Indians. Because when these Indians have these arms, they can protect themselves better than any other. Then the freedom of speech and expression, they demanded that the freedom of speech and expression should be given to the Indians. But they imposes the vernacular press act. So they demanded that Indians should now get the freedom of speech and expression. Some other reasons were there, or some other demands were there, or you can say that Congress demanded certain things which are somewhere related to the economic issues also. Not only Congress was demanding for the administration and governance, but they raised the voice related to the economic issues. High revenue had led to the poverty in India. They imposes heavy tax on Indians, which somewhere caused or led the poverty in India. Whatever grains were produced in India, they were exported to Europe, which create a kind of food shortage in India. Because to increase the land revenue, peasants and zamindar exports the grain to European market, which create a food shortage. So Congress demanded reduction of revenue also, and there was a drain of wealth. Earlier we were talking na, कि British generally give, did not give the higher position or responsibility to the Indians. The exams were conducted in London. When these IS or civil servants came from England to India, they get the high salary. So high salary is given to them only from India, and our wealth is draining to England. That is why they were demanding to have the examination, civil service examination in India, so that if Indian is selected for this examination or pass the examination and he get the salary, it remains only in India. Some other demands of the Congress were, they were demanding to cut down the taxes also, reduction of the taxes. They were demanding to cut down the military expenses. Why military expenses? During this time, Britain was somewhere involved in the world wars. To meet their war expenses, they introduce the military expenses or military tax here in India. Means अपनी military को equipped करने के लिए they imposes heavy taxes on Indians. The Congress was also demanding to cut this military expenses. If you want to involve in war, then try to complete your war expenses only from your country, not from any other. And they demanded to give more and more for the they demanded more funds for irrigation. If Indians or Indian farmers have good irrigating facilities, they will produce more food crop. When more food crop is there, then no one face the food crisis or shortage of food. It also passed the salt resolution. It also passed many resolution on salt tax. In earlier chapter we will earlier videos we will see what was this salt tax. In order to bring a kind of awareness, moderate leader began publishing articles and newspapers and started delivering speeches to show how British rule was ruining the India's wealth as well as India's resources.